Yeah, so this is not really a presentation, this is more like a discussion, but we have two short introductions. First I'm having a short introduction about economic boycott of Russia and how it has not been completely successful. And then there are friends from the Stockholm group, Russians Against the War, and they will tell a bit about actionist strategy against the war. So, next slide. Yeah, so this is just a general picture. Yeah. So this is just what happened to the Russian export. And this is mineral fuel, it's oil, gas and coal. So coal export is completely, more or less halted, but it's still up to 2 billions worth of gas and oil is being traded every month. And the gas is mostly LNG, the condensated. Yeah, it's condensated gas mostly, and oil goes through pipelines because pipelines trade is currently not sanctioned. But this is a quite big amount of, well, maybe 1.5 billion of euros every month being sold to like money just going directly to finance the Russian war effort. Next. So this is another one. This is a known. This is kind of all the other exports, and this is also not such a small amount. Like this is different countries, and sky blue is the Europe. So this is also more than 1 billion worth of euros every month. It's been going down a lot, and now that China is the biggest target of Russian like non-oil exports. But it's also surprisingly a lot, because usually it's thought that Russia is exporting only oil, and it's just in this kind of oil dependency, but it's not completely true. It's quite a lot of also other stuff exported from Russia, like different industrial goods and diamonds and so on. So next. And this case of this condensated gas, the liquefied gas, it's actually been even growing since the war has started. Like in 2003 it was like 40% more exports of this condensated gas than the last year. And this is also actually even in Finland still imported regularly. They are explaining that, oh, this is not officially under the EU sanctions, and we have this long time contracts with the Gazprom, so we still have to import this gas, and even it's already 2 years after the war, and now they are making, okay, we now have to very carefully new legislation, and might be that they will stop this import in 2025, but maybe not. So it's kind of still this business is still going on. So the next. So then this is one thing about the Russian export in general. Then another aspect of the work is Western multinational corporations active in Russia. And as it happened when the war started, many companies, they announced that they will withdraw from Russia. But then after a couple of months after these announcements, many corporations, they changed their mind and decided to stay in Russia. And there is a big campaign called LeaveRussia.org, and they are like tracking these companies. And there are lots of companies that are not widely known, especially like Chinese companies, but also some very common like non-consumer brands that are still active in Russia, like Pepsi, Procter Gamble, Nestlé, Unilever, L'Oreal, and DHL, but it's kind of like big non-consumer product brands. And of these corporations that they list, it's actually still 1,600 who are continuing the operations, and only 340 which have completely finalized their exit. And this is, I took this screenshot I think today in the morning, so this is very current information about this LeaveRussia.org campaign. As far as I know, no one in Finland is kind of trying to organize this campaign of the Leave Russia. I think it's kind of independent, but mostly it's driven by the Ukrainians. but I don't see that there is currently much in discussion. Like no one is, at least in here, but in Russia, with this Pepsi and Nestlé and so on.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Are there any Finnish companies?
Yeah, there are also Finnish companies, but not like consumer brands who are still in Russia.
In the 1,607, are those included as well, the scaling back and pausing investments, or those are like completely unchanged? 1,600.
I don't know if these companies have, because there are 6 categories: pausing back, scaling back, suspension, withdrawal. Might be that some of them have paused investments, but they are still active in Russia. So they are not only those who have completely exited, they are listed in the last category. So I cannot, you have to check the site to see which exact categories these companies, but the fact is that they are still in Russia, they are bringing their knowledge to Russia, and they are still kind of helping the Russian economy. And all of the tax money that they are paying in Russia, like now there is different, it's not completely clear how big part of the Russian budget goes to war, but it's really a huge share. So, and all the other sectors of Russian state spending is being scaled down, and a huge amount of new money goes to the war industry. So big part of all the tax money these corporations are spending in Russia, it goes directly to the war. Okay, next. And one particular thing is in Finland, because there is the Yandex corporation, which is a bit like, tries to be like Russian Google, but of course, like in all the Russian corporations, when it grow bigger, it was forced to be taken over by people who are in the security services, or at least friendly with the security services. So now to continue their business, they are, of course, has to do what the security services ask. And one thing what they ask is that they are publishing disinformation and compromat, this kind of like black propaganda against Russian opposition activists. And this is actually what they did last year, before, like 1 or 2 days before our festival. These different Yandex websites, they published some attempted compromat about people who are joining this festival here and who are also active. This is my picture there, and some activists from, like Russian democratic activists from other cities in Finland. And this was some website called Boycott, which no one is, of course, knowing, and there was lots of other sites like this. They have many so-called news sites, which is just basically some spam aggregators, but they put this news also to front page of the search engine, which is basically the search engine everyone is using in Russia. So of course tens or hundreds of thousands of people were reading this news this year. And they are running the Yango Corporation, the taxi platform in Finland, which is, of course, might be just that they are running this without making much profit, but it's very quite handy to gather information about all the kinds of people. And then they basically, so there was some discussion about this in Finland, so why we have this Russian Secret Service affiliation corporation in Finland gathering info about everyone's traveling data. And then they sort of, some Finnish officials send a letter, or can you explain this? And then they answer, oh, we are not gathering everyone's data, and we are not giving any data information to FSB. And then the Finnish regulator says, oh, this is okay, everything is fine. And they are still running this propaganda operation against us. And they also have a big data center in Mäntsälä, in Finland, between Lahti and Vantaa, which they are also. This is also one thing that I think we should discuss more in Finland and plan how to close this company operation in Finland.
Isn't this data center still operating? Because I've been there, I think they're kind of closed. Or
well, I don't think. I think it's operating. Okay. Like there has not been any kind of regulatory stuff against them. Mm-hmm. You have to check this, but I haven't seen any news that it's closed. And also,
there was news that it's going to be closed early after the war, and that is a problem for heating of the whole city. Because it creates so much energy into the system. Whether it was done or not, the plan was anyway.
Yeah, but
it would have to be.
Yeah, maybe there is something. Yeah, I have to check what's the situation now. But there has not been news, and also after this Yango got Yango basically got out freely from this regulationary discussion. So, but anyway, Yandex is still having operations in Finland, and it's kind of a thing that we should discuss more what to do with this. Okay, but that was all from me, and I can now let's welcome the group of Russians against the war, Sweden. Next.
Cool. Hi friends, I'm happy to be here, and I also want to say that it's been actually, for me, it's been quite a ride to get here from my vacation place with all the flight delays and long stopovers at the airports. So I'm kind of feel exhausted a little bit, and that's why I will be looking into my notes from time to time to avoid being too sloppy. But my name is Eric, and today, together with Alexei, we represent grassroots organization, anti-war committee in Sweden, Russians Against War. And we do many things, but yeah. we do many things, but today I would like to make a few points about performance art campaigns. Simply because many years ago I was also part of another interesting collective which is called Vayna, or the art group Vayna, the war art group, and I find it interesting to highlight some dissimilarities and similarities and discuss together maybe if we can learn anything useful from that experience. And of course, performance art campaigns are very effective when it comes to raising public awareness about this or that social or political issue. Can you switch to the? Yeah. Okay. So the art group, it was, like I said, it operated many years ago, but it was organized by the students of Dmitry Alexandrovich Prigov, and he is one of the most important conceptual art people in modern Russia. I don't show all of the leaders of the group, and most notably absent Nadezhda Tolokonnikova and Petya Verzilov. They're also founders of another very famous, world famous group called Pussy Riot. But by the time I joined Vayna, they already split out, so we didn't really talk much. I should also mention Lenya, because he was not there at the start in 2007, but he became very active and I don't know, wild person of the group, and he is of course very cool person. Unfortunately, he passed away again quite a few years ago, and maybe we can already switch to the next slide. So we were quite a big and dynamic group, and the Wikipedia page says that at some point we were like 60 people, which is not entirely true, but I mean it was more or less the same, more or less that number. And people were coming, people were going. Only like a few people stayed and participated in multiple actions. Mostly it was like one-time experience for most of the members. And I mean, it's not going to be like a lecture or like it was said. It's meant to be like we meant to discuss things about like how to become effective, how to fight Putin in Europe effectively. It's not a lecture about this group, but if you're like interested in what these like performances were about and how popular it was in Russia like 15 years ago almost, you can look it up. There is like a very good written Wikipedia page, and check it out. Or we can discuss it later after the discussion. But yeah, can you switch to the next one, please? But I think what is rarely said about the group is that yeah, to be fair, there is not so many things that people say about this group today, because it was quite a long time ago. But from the outside, it looked very horizontal. It looked very cool, anarchist, and inclusive. But on the inside, it was actually quite the opposite, because anyone who was not ready to cooperate with Oleg war on his terms, he had to be ready to face harsh criticism and get hated and even kicked out from the group. Was it still interesting experience for most of the group members? Well, for me, it was an extremely important experience, and I'm still very proud that I had that. But still, I think one of the reasons why people didn't stick around and why most people participated only like in one performance, only in one performance, was because Oleg he was asking like a lot. You had to become a part of the tribe, and you had to stick with group philosophy. You had to show them that you are like a true anarchist, and for most people it was just too much, because most people just wanted to do fun stuff, and that's it. And I think of Oleg, it was never a sustainable or like moral thing to do, at least from the community building point of view. But to be fair, I think we didn't know that word. We didn't even know that word at all, like community building 15 years ago. Right? So, but this is something that we learned very recently as activists. And I think again, 15 years ago, it was fair that their priority was to like do very effective political art, not to like build community together or something like that. So I think it's fine. But jumping back to 2023 and our Russians Against War collective, I think performance art campaigns works very well for us, for activists who live in Sweden, for multiple reasons. First, it gets us to work, and it keeps us distracted from laying down and mourning how terrible everything is. It also helps us to become visible and build trust with Swedes and with Swedish anti-war activists and even with Swedish politicians. And it's also a great way to attract new members and expand our movement. You can switch to the next slide. Yeah, this is who we are. Anti-war committee in Sweden, Russians Against War. We started, we self-organized immediately after the full-scale invasion started in 2022. And our main mission is community building, to bring all Russian-speaking people who live in Sweden together and do something like say anti-war things, do anti-war things, and help the main cause to support Ukraine, to support political prisoners in Russia, and to raise awareness about Putin's regime in Europe. Can you switch? Yeah. These are our strategies. Like I said, community building is the priority for us. We also try to change perception among Swedish people and abroad. We, like I said, do quite a lot of street protests and performance art campaigns. And yeah, you can switch to the next one. Right, so a couple of examples. Fortunately, it's not translated to English for some reason, but I can just pick it up, I guess. So in November 22, we bought 4 barrels on Boycott. It's like a Swedish eBay, and we painted all over with black and red, and then we put things like stop buying Russian oil and gas, stop paying for Putin's war, and we loudly marched through Stockholm's downtown, rolling these barrels and wearing outfit of prisoners, meaning to explain that oil money is also used to sponsor Russian Gulag system and the oppression of political prisoners. It was a lot of fun and also attracted a lot of attention of many, including attention of some Swedish politicians who later became our friends and started to support us by whatever means they have available. We also attracted in a nutshell, we just a few months after that we were declared undesirable organization by Russian general prosecutor, and I think it was we received it with like shock and surprise, of course, but also with some honor that we still think that it's because of this performance campaign we kind of became angry and got to know who we are, and since when they follow all our activities, from at least what we know from our friends from in Swedish police. But I think that's all for me, and maybe Alexei could take it from here and say a couple of things about our things to do.
Right, sure. We can, I think. Well, this one, I guess, is fits better with the previous presentation about stopping the imports and such. Part of why it was done in the first place is because the news story came out in the end of 2022 that Sweden still buys oil, and that's why one of the reasons we did this. And in contrast to the next performance that I will talk about, this was obviously targeted at the Swedish society and Swedish politicians, so message was for them. You can see here, for instance, the usage of prison ropes, even, which might suggest some sort of victimization, if you might. Which is absent in the next thing that I'm going to talk about if you switch the slides, which we did on the 9th of May, which for those of you who don't know is Victory Day in Russia, which is analogous to Victory in Europe Day. They just, we just celebrated a day later due to time zone issues and other stuff. But anyway, and in Russia it's a very important holiday, and thus we decided to make a small installation in front of the Russian embassy in Sweden. Again, for those of you who are not so familiar with Russia, you might not recognize the format, but it's a general type of monument found all over Russia and many former Soviet countries. They only now start removing them in many places, which commemorates the the Soviet victory in the World War II, which is usually consists of the World War II tanks that stands on the pedestal. And in our case, we have swapped the Soviet tank with the destroyed Russian tank, and we also, you might not see it here, but instead of Zdom Победы, which is congratulations for Victory Day, it's switched to Zdom Bedy, to congratulations on Disaster Day, which in itself is also a reference to, a Soviet cartoon based on the book. The cartoon was, by the way, shot in Kiev back when the Soviet Union still existed. So there's multiple layers of references here. But on the whole, while this obviously attracts some attention from Swedish public, I would say it was mostly targeted at, with the amount of reference at the Russian one. And one of the things, for instance, that signifies that is that it's is purely a mockery, mostly of the Putin regime. During the discussions that we had when we prepared the installation, there were suggestions that we should put children or people under the threads of the tank, that it crushes them, and that was I rejected the idea based on the fact that while it portrays the regime as horrible, it also invokes the idea that it has power, and for that reason that was rejected. It has to be explicitly destroyed and pitiful while pretending to be something grandiose, and that was the idea. Now, I said that it was a small installation. It's obviously a full-size thing. It's 1-to-1, just like the one that we showed on the first slide. We always do our installations 1-to-1. But it was quite an adventure to make this thing, obviously. We do quite a lot of volunteers, but it was still a big experience, and we had a lot of help from people. Our friends lent us the workshop space where we could assemble it. One of our activists had found a proper carpenter who helped us with the internals. Overall, the thing is still quite cheap. It was less than €1,000, and attached to that, we had a donation campaign towards Ukraine, which actually ended up being quite successful. We have assembled like €6,000 or so, and with that money, we have bought the evacuation machine that was sent to Ukraine. I guess I could speak a little bit more about the whole thing. So I guess for me the experience was, of course, quite wild, because I had come up with this idea, and then initially I thought I'll just make a 2D cutout. But then I thought, if it's a 2D cutout, then someone can come and just kick it and it will fall over. And I thought, how should I solve it? And then I just realized I just make it a full thing, and then nobody can destroy it. Well, we'll get back to that. Wasn't quite so. And then it was, of course, a thing to convince people to do it. For that, I ended up creating the full schematics of the whole thing, to show people that it's doable, to show them the budget, and luckily they bought it, and nobody realized that it's insane to do, and we even almost managed to do it on time. And when I say almost, is during the last days we hit a problem, since a lot of the drivers that we have asked to, for help with transportation, they themselves were Russian. And many of them got cold feet when they realized what are they doing. So we had to do it ourselves. Had to borrow the car, which was a bit undersized. So we had to disassemble that and then reassemble it at the place. And it was supposed to be ready for our for our demonstration for the 9th of May. Unfortunately, it wasn't quite ready. However, there we hit actually some unexpected bonus with that, because all the people who came to the demonstration actually came to us and started helping out with assembling the tank. So that was quite hilarious, and I think personally it's very touching that the people are ready to do things together, and in a way it invoked in me an idea of what are we supposed to do after the regime falls, because people would just have to come together and probably suddenly build something together. So that was interesting. And another interesting thing, I told you that I thought that this one wouldn't get broken. However, 3 days after we have installed it, and we got a permit for this to stand there for several weeks, our volunteer that was going to check on the tank, so that the that the public workers are trying to dismantle it. Turns out that embassy had called the local police. Somebody didn't check something, and the brigade came in and tried to disassemble it. they actually had destroyed like the front of the tank before we stopped them with threats of calling the police ourselves, and we had to restore it afterwards. And after that, they have attempted to harass us again with filing the suit. I'm not sure. I think they had complained to the police again that it's somehow disturbing stuff and or is destroyed or whatever. However, all of those things kind of backfired because the Swedish public had caught wind of that, and some popular person on Twitter had tweeted about that, which actually helped us a lot with the donation campaign. So that actually went quite in our favor. So we have, in the end, the tanks stood there for like 1.5 months and attracted a lot of positive comments, including from Swedes who actually hold the demonstration there every Wednesday in front of the Russian embassy. I should probably point out that in Sweden, well, as some of you might have heard, the levels of support for Ukraine are quite high, comparatively to the rest of Europe anyway. So they actually have 3 demonstrations every week in Stockholm about the Ukraine, and 2 of them are held by Swedish organizations and 1 by Ukrainian organization. On our side, we have demonstrations approximately every month or so, and on top of that we have stuff like that. Now, obviously it's so cool and the car is very cool, but for many of our members also, the maybe most important part would be on the next slide. The car eventually made its way to Ukraine, and actually we've even gotten a short video from Ukrainian military who thanked us for that. The guy even wears, I mean, you can't quite make it out, but that's our badge that we have set with with the car. It's just a white flag there with our name. So I guess the last slide is probably about how cool it is to make installations and such. Yeah, it is fun. And I guess so. Creativity and openness is the key. I have not written those lines, so we still need. Provoking the public is actually quite important, since a lot of. The point of having all of that is to attract attention of the public, and the public is always seeking to get distracted, to pay attention to something else. That's not the only installations that we made. We made some other proactive stuff. We have last spring we have burnt Putin on the Maslenitsa, which is a Slavic pagan festival, which was last year on the same week as the anniversary of the full-scale invasion of Ukraine, and this year is actually going to be on the same week as the so-called elections in Russia. So just saying. And then another thing that we did recently is we have organized a small training event for people to throw fake Molotov cocktails into the what do you call them? The conscription offices. As in the first half of the day, someone discussed how many of those were burned in Russia, and so we decided to first of all show solidarity with those people, and then of course just in case prepare our supporters if they need something to like that. So do more installations, performance art and such. It's cool and sometimes even effective. Thank you.
would you like to say? Do you have some comment? Or should we just go to? Только есть какая-то комментарий или мы идем просто на общую дискуссию? Ну окей, so yeah.
Скажу, что спасибо ребятам, thank you guys for coming and for discussing and for sharing what are you doing. Мы имеем такую же организацию, хочу сказать, здесь, в Финляндии, в принципе.
In English.
We have the same organization, like similar organization here in Finland, Democratic Community of Russian Speakers in Finland. So we have been doing similar things here, and not such cool installation actually, but we can do all together to do something like this. Why not? If somebody wants to participate, we can, for example, when in February, it's 24th, 25th, 2 years of war, so we can just try to do something like this, more bigger, not just like usual meeting and rally, but something more and bigger. So, and we have donations and also, and we are communicate with organizations like Swedish organization, with Norway and all countries, 24/7, actually 24/7 every day, and we just trying to make these meetings. We start actually next week. We have 21st of January. It was Alexei Navalny's. He was taken to the prison when we came back from Berlin. When he was poisoned, he was in the hospital over there, and when he came back to Russia, he was arrested, and 3 years he is actually in the prison. So 21st of it's next Sunday, and yes, and in February and in March we have on these elections, like elections. And our company is like no to Putin and Putinism. Нет Путину и Путинизму. Yeah, just you can just take this and find our social media.
Yeah, so I think we can have a general discussion. Yes. We can have a general discussion, but a few things that before I forgot to say. So after this discussion, we still have today program. There is a performance here around 6:30 directed by Natalia Nikolegova, and then later, 1 hour later, there will be a movie screening, which is also fundraising for the family of Dima Petrov, who died in Bakhmut last year's April, which is €10 cost. Also, the program continues tomorrow, but it will not be here, so don't come here. It will be another place in Kamppi. The address is Leppäsuonta 11. It's not far from Kamppi metro station. There is in Facebook, in the event description, there is actually also in the event description there is a link to Google Maps, so you can find it easily. And yes, what else? And also we are also happy to discuss the future of the festival and other activities like prisoner support events. We will have a meeting which is open in 12th of February. It's also in the Ulrika space, which is in Kamppi. It's in the Monday, 12th of February, so it's exactly more or less 1 month from now. But let's discuss now what to do. And like usually we can first have some discussion which goes also online, because some people might be, the sound, we don't put the picture to the public. The camera is only going to this direction. Of course, if you want to have your face in the stream, you can come here to have your point. But otherwise, we can have some discussion which is going online, and then we switch off, and then we can have some of the record conversation also. And also, I think it's okay also to say your point in Russian, and we can translate it. So, who would like to start?
23 European businesses are supporting Russian war, businesses from, but not only, not exclusively, Germany, France, Switzerland, Hungary, Slovakia, Italia, Estonia, Lithuania, Poland, and so on. And when I say these businesses support Russian war, I'm not saying that they are buying Russian gas and paying Russian taxes that go to war support. I'm saying that they are literally selling Russian something that is needed at the war. It can be some parts, computer parts that are used to launch rockets that cannot be produced or are not produced in Russia. It can be basic boots for soldiers and so on, so on. So, at the very least, because these businesses are all around the Europe, we could think, how can we boycott these? Because boycotting these at your country would be very exact protest against the war, I think.
But maybe also if you want to do something active, not just boycotting, but for example contacting them, for example art would be a perfect platform here, sending them artistic messages about what they're doing and publishing those. It would be one way to make the public what they do, because more people would be interested in like funny things than just like boycotting.
We could have also, we could also, besides boycotting, attack them.
I like the funny letters that would still have the message, but also really fun context.
Yes, maybe it's important also to put it in the media, especially in the countries who support Ukraine, because some countries like Hungary, unfortunately, they're relatively pro-Russian and not really supporting Ukraine, as far as I know from personal experience. But like to put effort to put the names of all these companies and what they do to the media, because if the population of the country supports Ukraine, so then they can create this kind of noise around these companies, then people actually by themselves might begin to boycott the company. So media, I think, as a tool, especially like big media like TVs and radio, which big amount of population listens or watches.
And I think that the idea of a boycott really is a great, and I really support it. And I say on your report was a very important thing about coal, because for me it's really painful, like for environmentalists, it's really a painful topic. That at this moment the European Union continue to buy coal from Russia.
I think that's already not anymore. I think the coal is finished. Yeah.
Finished?
Yeah. Only
it's
oil,
great
oil
because,
gas is
because unfortunately China continue to buy coal from Russia, and I know that at this moment we have a problem that within Russia increasing mining of coal, and it's really destroy nature. It's the first reason, and second, it's really horrible for indigenous people who live on place of mining coal. And of course, it's not a question of European Union. I don't know how it's possible to stop this mining, because within Russia there is a horrible problem with coal. And maybe it's possible to impact to this question, because it's both problems. First of them, problem with environmental, and second, problem with society who live on mining place.
I had one point to share. I was thinking about this target group that you are having. You were building the tank in front of Russian embassy, which is of course obvious, and you are speaking to the like local Swedish or Finnish people here. But because the media is saturated with these boycotting stories and big companies that are doing business with the Russian war machine, have you or somebody, or would somebody maybe consider in the future to try to influence, for example, say China, like having a demonstration in front of China embassy, underlining the fact that there are also like not only European countries that are supporting Russian war efforts through business, but also like big countries that are like backing up Russia's action passively or actively. And it would be like interesting for the public maybe, and for the public discourse to like lift some new themes to the discussion. Anyone?
Well, I don't know about the Chinese one, honestly, because that sounds like a bit too much for us.
Like far-fetched.
But, however, we did actually consider maybe doing something in front of South African embassy during the summer when we had they had the summit, and that they were like a bit icky on whether or not they were as Putin if he shows up there. So it was considered, but at the end of the day we didn't have to do anything since Putin didn't come. So yeah.
Yeah, I can also try to answer that. I think it's a very interesting point that you're making, but we should also consider our like scale, the scale of our group, and like where we're based at. Like we are a Sweden-based organization, and no matter how much we try to reach like audience in other countries, we would still inevitably be visible only like in Sweden. But I think it might be valuable even like in the Swedish context, because if we do something that is not really like aligned well with the like a traditional bipartisan campaign, Swedish media could be like more interested in our organization, in our strategy, just because we are like breaking the rules, just because we look more alike than some sort of stereotypical like activist group they can think of. Hence the reason why we don't appear, or like some other groups don't appear that much in British media. So from the media perspective, yes. From the perspective of the efficiency, I'm not sure.
Think global, act local. Good motto.
I was just thinking about the companies. Is there like a publicly available list of these companies? Like, is it on that
yes,
site?
I was actually trying to translate them into Finnish, and I have translated. I have another page in Facebook, Russian Censored Suomi, because we had this Russian Censored project from 2021. We was translating different videos and articles about Putin and oligarchs and about all this stuff. And now I just continued by myself into Finnish. Русские олигархи, которых боится трогать Евросоюз, for example. It's just the list of Russian oligarchs that EU doesn't touch. So it's a lot of stuff, and I was trying to, but it's nobody sees this. But we can make, for example, if we know that some place somebody owns some place, for example, Vladimir or Potanin, who Putin's oligarch, and he has this Nornike Harjavalta, Satakunta. He's 100% owner of this place, and he just supports also the war, and he is just not under the sanctions. time. It's a lot of these guys around the Putin, and they are not under the sanctions. So we can just go over there and do something around this place, and or something like the place like this. But in this case, just media maybe can be interested. But if you just talk about this, nobody, right? So like some performance is one case, and we can just write and do this list and just translate and send to parliament, for example, or somewhere. And I was talking about this in Brussels last time we were with Alexei over there on the Congress. So I was talking to from Latvia, some guy from the ministry, and yeah, he just put on the list of. We just stayed together and I showed him during half an hour all these articles, and he just said, okay. It's just brutal that nobody do nothing about this. So I cannot. I don't know what else we can do about this. Talking performances.
So that is a brilliant idea, because this is what people know, and for example, media would be interested. You have to do really good media work. It actually doesn't matter, even if it's a small demonstration. If you sell it to the media, it will make public what you want to be made public. So this is a brilliant idea. Do something about it. It can be performance. It can be a lot of things. But really get media back up for it, so that you know that media will be there. Some comments to some of the points before. Is like, for example, this idea about China. It will not affect all China. That here in faraway countries somebody is demonstrating does not affect them. But then I very much agree with Xenia that there is many possibilities to reframe this thing and not only talk about the war but other contexts. Like coal production, and coal, it is on EU list of no longer buying, but yes, it's still being bought. So actually they're still buying. So connecting these new things and what it means inside Russia to have coal production and what it means in our energy system. And in the same way, for example, China. So there was just this COP meeting, and Chinese there commented that they did not actually reach their target for. So they built lots and lots of renewables, and so they planned to build even more. And so in that sense they did very well. But one reason why they did not get rid of. It's not rid of, but like renewables overtaking fossil fuels was that there's so much cheap oil coming from Russia that China just buys it because it's so cheap for them. So these kinds of connections would be very valuable, because if you just have the same message that we need to like oppose. That maybe that no longer catches attention, and people feel it's interesting, and so reconnecting these things could be a good strategy.
Can I add one small thing? I just add something about these oligarchs. That there are many Putin's people in Europe who are very safe and protected here. For example, one man who makes rockets for war in Ukraine lives in Czechia, Czech Republic, and has 14 different houses there and over 4 million euros owning shit and so on and so on. At the same time, Czech Republic refused to give visas to Russian refugees who don't want to go to Armenia. Or Isinbayeva, if I pronounce her last name correct, also Putin's person living in Spain and so on and so on. They're really around here. I would add one more thing shortly and shut up, that there's a very interesting thing I read in one post-anarchist article about differential capital. So when you protest against some company, even if it's a small, non-violent protest, perhaps you don't affect its capital. It still stays there. It doesn't look like you did damage to it. You affect its differential capital, which means that the company cannot grow when you protest against it or boycott it, while other companies around are growing. So the boycott, the protest can be very effective in this way. Thank you.
And talking about boycott, as I'm not mistaken, the Taboil, it's like Lukoil group.
Lukoil, yes.
So it's still
yes.
okay. So like just saying, if you're drivers, so if you are buying gas from Taboil. Like,
but a lot of people try to avoid this.
A lot of people, but I know personally many people who didn't know that Taboil is kind of related to Lukoil.
Even Finns.
The stations, they are independent, but the brand and the supply is from Lukoil. But the stations, they are privately owned. Basically, it has a local connection, yes. But also, yeah.
Because all of these oligarchs, they have they're citizens of European countries, for Cyprus, for example, and they bought this citizenship, and they are trying to through this to buy some properties and even islands. We have actually one successful case here in Finland with Kisai, who is also a Russian oligarch, and some of you knows about this, and he was through this Cyprus citizenship. He bought here Kotasari, the whole island, and nobody didn't know that what he was doing over there on this island. And I just talked to the Ministry of Defense, yes. And they in 2 days they was trying to check what is going on there, because it's the whole island and just one road leads to and nobody knows what is going on over there. And it was just this guy, this Kasayev, he is the owner of 2 factories of weapons. And these weapons was sending all the time during all these years to Donbass and Crimea. Yes, and he just like an owner of the whole island, and and after that, in 2 days, when I told to this, it was too many in Alexander Institute. It was some forum, Alexander Institute forum, and when I told them all this story, and I just asked, can you check what is going on there, because this is too dangerous. I'm not sure that he is building some small places like cottages, and when it was checked, it was like he was building. It was already helicopter. Helicopter. Yes. And he didn't even ask the permission to build it. nobody in Finland knows that this helicopter place over there is already. And one big building for like 100 persons. Quite dangerous situation for the Finland.
But it's a broke the legislation.
Yes, now it was they put it under arrest. After that, it was during the whole year they was trying to check it and just control it, and now it was confiscated, the whole of this island.
Ira, it's a great job.
But
Congratulations.
but at first we talk about this because Arja von Outisalo wrote about this case in 2021. Supo knew about it in February 2021. In May, in April, Outisalo wrote about it, the article, the whole article, because we told her about it. But nothing happened. But after that, I was talking to the Minister of Defense, and it was 20 or 50 people. It was from the Alexander Institute and Marko Kangaspura and another guys. And after that, in 2 days, all this checking was they did it. So, but I mean that we must try different ways, not just telling, for example, media just because nothing happened. It can happen, but not 100%. But this is just one case. But I guess it's a lot of these these places and properties and islands and buildings that Russian oligarchs or people around them they own. So.
It's extremely effective campaign, very successful. Because we have one sad story, we organize investigation, our team, Activize Work, we organize investigation about Putin's oligarch Berezkin. He was included on sanction list, but he, thanks of laws on European Union, he was escaped from this list. And we send special letters to European Commission and to different structure with question why it happened. And they send us blah 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 without concretely facts, and it means that it's not so big deal for oligarchs to organize this action and to escape from sanction list. And it's really very sad because oligarch Berezkin, he really organized a huge, a horrible hate campaign against activists on Moscow. We know him. He is a really disgusting person, and he really at this moment support disgusting war. And I know how it's possible to stop it in Europe. How continue to push to Putin's oligarch.
But they know that this there is a big holes in this whole sanction strategy and sanctions. They know. We was talking about this many times in Europarlament.
But it's really very exciting. Your example, your experience really very excited. Maybe you share with me contacts of Alexander Institute and you know these guys, because maybe we share result of our investigation and maybe they
through this maybe
thanks to this incredible team it will be possible to push to European structure and including Berezkin on sanctioned list again. I will be really very pleasant for contacts of this team.
Because they are the same, they are actually, Marko Kangaspura, I was talking with his, the head of Alexander Institute. So he actually is the same opinion with me. Because he doesn't think that sanctions on all Russians is good. No, this is wrong strategy. But on the oligarchs, on some, on
yeah, absolutely.
But it's a lot of problem with sanctions actually. They put so much money on Ukraine. They're trying to, but the same money goes to Russia, to the Russian weapons.
Absolutely.
Where is logic?
Yeah, there is also this. There are like lots of oligarchs who are not sanctioned, but there is also oligarchs who are under sanctions. And they have properties which is basically free to grab, because. And there has been in Amsterdam and London, people have squatted some oligarch houses, and also they use them to organize some anti-war things. So there is actually this kind of properties in Finland also. But as far as I know, in Helsinki only Hartwall Arena, which is probably guarded. But there is like flats in Hanko, and there is also, I think there is some mansion not so far from Kuopio, which is quite luxurious. So if someone wants to have a mansion in Kuopio, it's a good place to stay, because it's basically sanctioned, so the owners are expelled. They might be guarding it somehow, but it might be difficult to challenge the squatting of place in the court when it's under sanctions. At least someone should try this in Finland. Yeah, any more comments? Yeah.
Yeah, so also if we would take like artistic approach to anything with the companies, whether oligarch owned or whether those who skip sanctions and especially provide for war, there could be strategies like sending fake orders where you ask for very, very kind of things that is obvious that we want you to sell us this and these things exactly to this area and whatever, and check like and have be serious enough, and then something that shows it's not real. But like most of them probably would not reply, but some might, and make that public that they are like, actually we can't provide this, so that could be one tactic to work artistically against this.
Yeah, we always have to start from public.
Yeah,
public knows this.
This doesn't start with public, but this is art first, so that will be public.
No, after yes, after. But we are doing this art for the media. This is the goal.
I mean, like artistic approach is very efficient, but I think there are only like a few, at least like in Sweden, but there are only a few businesses that openly kind of show that they are controlled by Russian oligarchs. And I remember like a few months ago, like a Swedish brand, Absolut, decided to re-enter Russian market, and it was immediately cancelled in social media, and simply by like people who were like simply by Swedes who were very angry by Absolut decision. And what they did is they just one-starred Absolut on Google Maps actually, and it was already enough. So the leadership like changed their like mind just in a couple of days. That's how simple was it. And was it mass scale? I think like maybe like around 50 or like 100 people left this like one-star review on Google Maps. That was enough. So I think when it comes to like open brands, boycotting boycotting will absolutely be very efficient. But when it comes to like Russian oligarchs' money or to this like shady like gray schemes of controlling like run businesses from one country, like from offshore place, artistic approach would be not enough.
And like if you would have like fake address, so make something .ru ending place where you send an order to, you can do it all over Europe. It doesn't cost you much. Just prepare a little different letter for everyone according to what they do. So it would be actually quite, so it doesn't need to be in any country, as long as it's in the EU. I think so you could also use this kind of EU publicity.
I mean, I was also thinking because the BDS movement, they put out these like posts which very clearly say like certain companies that you should be boycotting or stuff. And that, I mean, that obviously only really works for consumer goods, but I mean that I think would be good because I don't know if most people know which companies have re-entered the Russian markets and are participating in stuff like that. So anything that like very clearly just is like, hey, these are the things would probably be good.
There's a mobile phone application actually which tracks basically you can scan the QR code or just the barcode of a product, of a consumer product, and it just tells you what's the current situation. And there are like some of them that are like red, which says that they work with Russia, and they scale up to like not supporting at all. I don't know, it's possible to promote this app as well, because you don't always remember which companies are which, and sometimes they can like have some companies, small companies that they own, so like Nestlé basically controlling almost everything. Like,
do you know how the app is called?
It's called Push to Leave. It can be found in App Store. Push to Leave. Like that.
Yeah.
But it's not always.
There are some companies for which the state is unknown. Maybe it's possible to somehow learn what's their status. I don't know, but there are some big ones that are clearly the position of which is clearly stated here. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, at least we will plan this next month, like what to do next in this direction, for sure. Is there any more comments or ideas for the discussion? We are a bit over time, but we also started a lot late. I think they are still having practice in the next room.
Well, essentially, if you have those companies, well, I'm probably not talking about the companies with consumer products, but more like the companies that the person mentioned that supply Russian army more directly. Since there's always a list of those companies, if the offices of those companies could be mapped, in theory, or at least Russian diaspora communities can organize a European-wide campaign, maybe to come after them, or some of them, for instance, depending on where the offices are, and just do it simultaneously. If there is some companies there that have offices in multiple companies, you can just maybe take one company and come at it at once. Something like that.
You can try.
But we have to take a look at the list and investigate.
Yeah, I guess is there any more? Let's see. I can also now switch off the stream and recording if someone wants to ask or comment something of the record.